What would you like to see happen differently with your speech? Is there anything keeping you from doing that? These are all good questions. Weigh them, you're not going to give them all to every child, but choose 2 or 3 of these questions and probe and see if you can't get down to the nitty-gritty. Because if you don't have that buy-in, that motivation, then they're not going to shift. They're not going to change their speech. All righty. Section B, early in therapy, set client expectations. Here we go. This is number 4. Terminology, goals and objectives. Okay, this is the one that was done over in the UK. This is 2024 Perspectives on Goal Setting. They videoed speech-language therapists, they call themselves SLTs, and their clients during goal setting sessions. The bottom line was that the SLTs want to set meaningful goals together with their patients, okay, or clients, but lack theory and resources to effectively shape the goal setting process. Patients generally perceive goal setting as a vague activity in which they minimize and minimally participate. So to me, setting goals and objectives is kind of a empty thing, okay? During the therapy, okay, or even at the beginning, I wanted to establish that prior to therapy. What's our goal? Our speech goal. I want to establish it then, okay? Otherwise, I want to change that terminology to expectations. What are the expectations? And here are expectation suggestions here at the top. What I expect of them as far as their work, their behavior, how they interact in groups, okay? Other expectation categories. Do they know why they're in speech? We've covered that, okay? And that's typically the goals and objectives, as we said. What is their attitude toward therapy? If they have kind of a crummy attitude, do the leverage questions. These are all expectations. Have you established their personal work expectations during therapy? What do you expect them to do? Have you established their behavior expectations during therapy? What about group interaction expectations? These are all good things to do toward the beginning of therapy. What are your expectations? And then you're not playing whack-a-mole as you go through, okay? And also, I love this, and I've said this a gazillion times. Every time we meet, here's an expectation. Every time we meet, I expect to see improvement or to hear improvement. That sets up that expectation. Now, then here's a reversal. You ask them, what expectations do you have for me? This is a great time to discuss the following. And because a lot of times they're like, what do I expect from you? Or, and you can use different phrases like, what do you want me to do? What do you expect from me as your speech therapist? What do you expect from me? And they're not going to know. A lot of times they do. I'll go, do you expect me to be here and on time? Okay. Well, then, would that be fair for me to ask you to be here and on time too? Would that work? See how this works? To treat you with respect. Do you want me to treat you with respect? And then you say what that looks like. Okay. And then you reverse it. Okay. And then also, here's another good one. If someone is disrupting our time and making it hard for others to learn here in our group, what would be fair for me to do? What do you think? What would be our group expectations for me to say and what do I do with this person that is interrupting our session? What do you think? And I have to say, kids are tough. Kick them out. Turn their seat around. Send them back to class. Whatever. I mean, they're tough. Okay. But come up with some expectations on behavior. And then another one, in speech, when you say or do something incorrectly, do you want me to say something to help you? That opens the door. And I have it down the line here too, another little section here on do we really, when kids say things incorrectly, sometimes we back away from telling them that they're wrong. Hey, that's wrong. That's not correct. That's said incorrectly. Sometimes we back away from that. But I am asking their permission. When you say something incorrectly, do you want me to say something to help you or not? Would that work for you? See, that opens the door for that piece. And then treat each person with respect and expect the same from them.
Before we move on, we had a comment that Kathy said that she thinks many of her students will reply that their expectation is to play games, have fun, or win prizes. How would you
Right.
navigate if, you open up this conversation and that's the response you got?
Um, conversation. I
Just kind of like navigating, like, yes, we want to have fun, but we're also here to improve your speech sounds.
yes, yes. It's that discovery thing.
Mm,
And that's kind of, that's during the seed planting phase. Okay. It's the discovery piece. It's the why. It's the relevancy. What are we there for? And
okay.
it's specifying that, but it's also their discovery of need.
So sometimes like you're not necessarily having this conversation of expectations on like day one. Maybe you start off with like planting seeds and building that therapeutic relationship, and then you get to the point where you're having this conversation about expectations of therapy. So it's not this happens before or at the first session. It's kind of over time that you're building this motivation into your sessions.
Yes, but it is something that happens. I mean, in a perfect world, because there's kids coming and going all year long, but in a perfect world, it happens in August or September,
Gotcha.
so that you can continue to reinforce that as you go along. But if you're midstream and everybody is just expecting to come in and have fun and play a game, you kind of have to stop that one. And they walk in and there's no game
Mm,
and say, we need to talk about a few things. And maybe you just start off by saying, when you're in class, what are some things that you are learning in there? What's going on in there? Well, I'm learning to read, or I'm learning, I've got some math things, we've got social studies, whatever. Okay. In here, why are you in here? What's your reason? And I would let them express it. Why are you here? And if they know, great, reinforce it. If they don't, then, do that imitation thing or do an audio or a video so that they come to the point where they can self discover what's going on, so that that establishes a need to
mm,
change and to do the work. Because if they don't have that, they're not going to do it. I mean, that's
okay.
just basic, for all of us as human beings.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, and that, yeah, the game thing can be overwhelming. And word gets around, everybody wants to come into your speech room because we're playing games and we're getting out of work in the classroom. That's what that's all about. So, um, yeah, yeah, good,
Awesome.
good
Thank
question.
you for that.
Yes, yes, good question. Okay, great. All right. So here we go. We are starting on throughout the therapy session. Okay. Instructional feedback, and this is emphasizes the words, the types of words that we use. And there's quite a bit on this in the literature. And I'm calling this instructional feedback and the words that we use. There's a lot of terminology, just different terms for this. Corrective feedback, that's Sheen. Informative feedback, there's Dr. Susan, and I have no idea how to pronounce that. Directional feedback, the gal at the speech bubble uses that term. Explanation feedback, that's 2013 Butler. Meaningful praise, Morin 2024. And then I have my term. God, everybody else has a term, so I threw my term. My term for corrective feedback is instructional feedback. And I kind of like that. I'm going to say that the one in the literature that is used most often is by Sheen. Sheen wrote the book. I have her book over here. It's this big red book. And it's called corrective feedback. And that's the one that's most popular in the literature. And then you have all these others. But I kind of like instructional feedback. I don't like the word, I'm correcting you. I'm up here and you're down there and I'm correcting you. But I want to give you feedback that's going to be instructional for you. During feedback, two things are implied. And I thought this was really good. I read this in apraxia-kids.org. We impart knowledge of their performance. So when we're talking with them and giving them that feedback, we're giving them knowledge of what they did, their performance, and knowledge of their results. So there is the what they did, and then what was the end result? Yeah, it was great. It wasn't. Okay. But what they did is the instructional feedback. The result is a result. I mean, no matter what, okay? But the performance piece is the variable. All right. This is what I call speech sound feedback. See, and if you've watched anything that I've ever done, I talk about speech production. The source of speech is we produce. We do the stabilization, mobilization. We have the bracing, the mid-tongue, all that stuff. It involves the production of speech. If we emphasize the sound, the result, okay? This is typically what we say, and I have done this for years, okay? As far as our feedback, we request clarification or repetition of what they just said. I'm sorry, say that again. I didn't hear you. Did you happen to say Okay, we're asking for clarification. Or we give them a recast. We repeat their utterance back to them correctly. Okay? Or we echo their incorrect response and then model the correct one. I would also say and add encourage self-monitoring whatever we do from the very beginning. How do you think that sounded? Or how do you think that you did? I just think self-monitoring from the very, very beginning, not just waiting until we get to carryover, but from the very beginning is just critically important. And then a more oral-oriented instruction is, how did your mouth do with that one? And I always say, your brain knows what to do, and your brain is in charge of your mouth. And see, that always gives the mouth an out. Like, how did your mouth do for that one? Your mouth didn't follow your brain that time, did it? And it gives them an out. Okay, we'll talk a little more about that. All right. Here's the big question. Is it best to inform a client when they are wrong or not? I'm going to say yes, I think it's important. Otherwise, how are they going to know? I know that sometimes, and I have been I'm going to say guilty of this. I don't want to hurt the kids' feelings because they were trying so hard. So therefore, why don't I say, boy, I see you're trying so hard. Oh, instead of just saying good job, they're going to think that I'm saying good job because the speech sounded right rather than good trying. So I need to be very specific with that. So, okay, in instructional feedback and corrective feedback and all of that, there are two types of, I'm going to say, words that we use. Praise words and encouragement words. Here's praise words. Praise words discuss results. The result. Maybe you have the process of them actually producing it. Then you have the end result, what it sounds like. Praise words typically discuss results. Great work on your homework. Yeah, results, you got them all right. That's a nice concrete example. We also use opinion words. Wow, good job. That's my opinion of what you just said. Good job. And sometimes it would mean good trying, good thinking and working and trying to put all this together. But so good job is kind of nebulous. In their mind, I think that they're thinking that they did it, that they did the sound correctly. So we have to be really specific. Or we say words like great, terrific. I like the way you said that. Now that is pretty specific. Praise words are typically used when the client performed as you had hoped or expected they would. If you think about that one, we typically praise when, oh yeah, okay, the kid is going to be able to do it, or okay, I'm going to praise him for it. Good job. Now, here's an uh-oh down here in blue. Praise words lead the client to rely on your assessment of their accomplishments. Okay. No self-monitoring there. They're like, here's my result. How'd I do? Okay. That totally usurps self-monitoring. I don't want them totally reliant on my opinion, on my feedback, on my praise of what they did. Also, here, don't get caught up in the reinforcement game and forget to provide feedback. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So, okay, the encouragement words. Let's move into that realm. Notes the process and the progress. The process and the progress. Process and their improvement. Okay. Not just the outcome. Be specific and don't over encourage and praise. I'm not saying not to say, I mean, good job is I think good job is a fine phrase as long as I say, good job. Boy, I could tell you were really thinking and focused on your mouth that time. I'm not saying not to say praise words, but encourage, follow up with the encouragement words. Notice effort and progress. Look in the mirror, honey. Boy, I can tell your tongue is working hard to do that. I can see you are thinking and focusing on your mouth. Your brain is telling your mouth what to do, isn't it? Wow. Use descriptive words. Your S sounds like your tongue is anchored in the right place. Wow, that's excellent. Praise word. But you're also putting in the encouragement, specific encouragement words. Instructional feedback. Instructional feedback. Okay. Also, encouragement words are given regardless of their performance. See, if we just focus on the end result, it doesn't give us anything to work with instructionally. It's a yes or a no. And sometimes you just hate to keep saying no if the kid doesn't have the right, the right production. So, but looking at that process gives you room to instruct. Encouragement words support client self-monitoring of their speech productions, noticing the auditory result, and then also hopefully focusing on their stabilization and mobilization pieces as to what they're actually doing in there. And if that stabilization mobilization is new to you, I have a ton of, several courses here at Speech Therapy PD where I've talked about it. I have a bunch of stuff on my website and blah, blah, blah. It's all over the place. Okay, interactions. Embrace professional, joyful interactions because many children will want to mirror you. They're watching you. Your behavior many times will be reflected in them. Okay. Big picture, your interactions are based on what they say and do through their speech tasks, their facial expressions, and their gestures. Okay. As much as possible, when you're interacting, and this is part of the motivation in keeping them on task and moving through. And it's part of not relying on the extrinsic as much, okay? Say their name. And I could go into that. There is actually actual research on saying the child's name before you are asking them to do something or when you are giving them that, encouragement piece. Say their name. Achieve eye contact. And I know there are a lot of kids that are autistic that don't do that. So there's obviously some exceptions. And be sincere. Be sincere. Monitor your verbalizations and facial expressions, your content of what you say, your intonation, your rate, your volume. Monitor your physical gestures and your proximity. Ideally, ooh boy, this one's hard for me. Talk less than your client. Yeah. Ask them questions, then pause. That lets them know that you expect them to answer. Measure your interactions. See, this is all part of that therapeutic process, but being very aware of how we interact and how we come across to the kids. Is it sincere? Can they truly, um, it's that trust factor. Okay, it's that teamwork factor. We're working together on it, or is it just me saying, "Here's what we're going to do"? All right. Section C, we're on number 6 here throughout therapy. How are we doing on time? Oh, we're doing pretty good. We're going to make it. All right. Number 6, homework and the accountability loop. Homework and the accountability loop. And you're probably thinking, I don't have time to put together homework. I have some shortcuts for you, and I should probably just do like an hour-long thing on homework, okay? Because I do have quite a few suggestions for that. I don't give them all here, but I kind of do. Homework? Yes, homework. Okay. And what is the motivator for them to do homework? Improvement. Improvement. When they sense and hear and feel improvement, they are motivated to do more. I will never forget. This was in Southern California. I was in Apple Valley Unified School District, Mariana Elementary School. And I walked in and I had, 100 or so kids on the caseload. And there were gazillion, speech kids and language kids and self-contained classrooms. And, I mean, it was, there was a lot to cover. And the prior therapist did not give homework. And I'm pretty committed to giving homework. Not for everybody, okay, but for a lot of kids. I just think it's important. And so I started off and I said, okay, I'm going to give you this speech homework. And it was like mutiny in Mariana. Okay. I mean, they didn't want to do it. No, our speech teacher, Mrs. whoever it was, I forget her name, Mrs. Smith didn't give us speech homework. Why are you giving us speech homework? And I'm like, oh boy, what do I do here? And I had to work for a good month to 2 months to just kind of incrementally try the homework and give them very easy, simplified things to do for their homework that would, improve what they're doing. And gradually over time, at the end of that, whatever it was, month and a half, 2 months, I had kids coming and saying, "Oh, give me more homework. Give me more." And I said, "Why? I thought that you didn't like homework." "Because I'm getting better." If they have a sense of improvement, they want to do it. And I'm going to say, not every kid, okay, but many. I mean, these were hardcore kids. No, I'm not doing that homework. I mean, it kind of took me back. I'm like, okay, what do I do with this? Okay, how do I incrementally sneak this in? Because I want them to do it. Okay, bottom line is that almost no one wants to do homework. But once they experience the improvements, many are happy to do it, and they are very surprised. I will never forget that experience. I can still see those kids. Yeah, give us more homework, Mrs. Boshart. Hang in there, give it some time. It may take a month or two for it to kick in. During those first couple of months, do super duper extrinsic reinforcements to keep them going. Okay? But also give them that homework. That's the agreement. Give them that homework. Okay? Now, I'm going to specify some parameters on the homework here in a minute. But if you have one student in a group that does the homework and reaps the benefits. Now, this happened to me here in Georgia in the last school that I was at. But if you have one student in a group that does the homework and reaps the benefits, peer pressure can encourage the others to do so. In fact, I had this one group where there were 4 kids, and 3 kids were doing the homework, but this one child wasn't. And one of those sweet kids that was doing the homework went to that little girl's house and did the homework with her. I mean, it totally blew me away. But and I don't want to call it peer pressure, but I don't know if it's, kind of a group thing where everybody's doing it and I'm not, and well, I don't know. And, there is something there that is motivating about doing it to be part of that group. Okay. Here are some of the parameters. You may want to just change the term. Homework can be off-putting. This is what I would like you to rehearse at home. Okay? Rehearse this at home, and then come back next time and do it for me, do it for us, perform it for us, show us how it went. Okay, but rehearse this at home. Okay, there's other terms and stuff, but I kind of landed on that one. I kind of liked that one. Here's some other parameters. Ensure the work that you assign is appropriate for each person, and the results are potentially beneficial. If they think it's busy work, or you give them too much to do, or it takes too long to do, you will lose them. Okay? I have even given, now back when I was just doing speech sounds, I mean, I've done homework for a long time. Okay. If you're doing capability-based therapy and you're breaking down, let's do the stabilization and, the sides of the tongue and the sides of the teeth and the mid-tongue, and you're doing, you're building the capability to produce the speech sounds. It's not foreign things that you're doing with your mouth, but it's things that you actually have to do with your mouth to make the speech sound. It's like a precursor to doing the speech sound, and I call it capability-based therapy. And if you're doing capability-based therapy, it's so easy to do this, okay? Because, you take a tongue depressor or whatever, and you stroke the sides of the tongue and the sides of the teeth, and they become aware of the sides of the tongue contacting the side teeth. That's a precursor to many of the speech sounds that we work with. So that's pretty easy to do. But if you're doing speech sound therapy, where you're just here, say the sound and keep working on it and see if you can find it in there, okay? Then one thing that I used to do is I want you to listen to 2 friends and see how they say blah, blah, blah sound, the R sound, the sound, or an S sound, or the TH sound, or the L sound. Notice your friends and see, so that you're focusing them on the production. Maybe they can't do it yet, but you're focusing them on it. Or, maybe they're producing a flat L at the end of words and you want them to curl the tongue up. Just ask them to, I want you to say these sounds, these words, and notice what your tongue is doing. Notice what it's doing on that last L in those words. And then come back next week and tell me what you noticed. What did you find out? So you can have awareness kinds of things that can be beneficial too if you're just focusing on the sounds. And they can do that. Okay, I mean, I'm saying they're capable of doing that. Many of them, most of them. the kids that we work with. But if it's busy work, and I'm talking busy work, and when I think of busy work for homework, I think of like, some poor little second grader that can't count to 10, and yet the teacher is sending home multiplication tables up to 8. You know what I'm saying? That's discouraging. And I don't want to discourage any child. I don't want them to think it's busy work. I want them to think this is important for you. And I don't want it to take too terribly long, or they'll totally get discouraged. Do not give them any homework that they cannot do. Okay? Only give them tasks that they can do. Okay. And I'm, if I'm doing capability tasks, or they have the speech sound and we're practicing the speech sound, or combinations or words or whatever, that's why it's called practice. Okay. It's repetition. And I never send home something for them to do to discover. See if you can figure this out, honey. See if you can figure out how to make that sound. No, because they won't do it. They just won't do it. Okay. Give them things that they can do to practice, to rehearse. Ask them to practice 1 time per day, each day for a week. I don't even give them weekends off, but they take it. If I ask for 7 days a week, you might get 5 or 4 or 3. But if I ask for 3, I'll get 1. Okay. I don't want them to practice longer than like 5 minutes or 7 minutes at the very, very, very most. Okay. I have some audios that I have kids do, and some of them are like 6 or 7 minutes. So I threw in the 7 minutes, but I'm going to say 3 to 5 minutes is adequate for most speech homework practices. Also, if you're in the schools and you're doing like a Monday, Wednesday schedule, give them the homework tasks on Monday and then review it on Wednesday. Don't change the task, because you want a week of practice. Okay, find out if they're doing it, how they're doing on Wednesday. Practice it with them on Wednesday. During therapy, go over exactly what you want them to do. Have them do it in front of you in the group. It's part of the therapy session. Then when you come back, review their homework. First thing, homework is important. How is it going? How'd you do? What did you do? Show me what you did. What can you do today that you couldn't do last week? I want to see improvement every time you come in. All right. Part of this is reinforced by the accountability loop. And I've written about the accountability loop. In fact, I think I did a Therapy Matters blog on my website on the accountability loop. The accountability loop, now this is something that I kind of made up, okay? It's not in the literature or anything. It's something that I did that I found very beneficial. It is a method to motivate students and hold them accountable for doing their homework. It's also a great way to reinforce parent or caregiver teamwork. You know how sometimes you'll have a parent that says, I don't even know who my kid's speech therapist is. I haven't talked to her in months. This alleviates that, okay? And also the accountability loop is typically done with students who need that little extra practice nudge, okay? The communications is actually with the parent/caregiver, okay? All right. You need to find out, and either this is at the IEP meeting or you contact them in some way, but find out, parent, what is the best way to keep in touch with you? Okay. To text, to email, to call and leave a message on your phone, or is there a time that you'll be home? Maybe it'll coordinate with our therapy. Okay, but find out, how can I touch bases with you? Okay, and it has to be one of those. It can't just be, oh, I'm going to write a note and give it to the kid to stick in their backpack. Okay, no. No, the kid needs to see, the child needs to see that you have made a concerted effort to reach the parent, okay? I'm jumping ahead a little bit here. Let the parent know that occasionally you will contact them to brag on their child, okay? To touch bases specifically about their progress and to enlist their support in the speech homework, okay? And then tell them to ask their child about the homework. Now, the things that I like to send home are things that they can do, as I said, that are pretty limited, okay, they're at tasks that they can do. So if they're not having to think a lot about it, okay. But I want the child to tell and show the parent what they need to do. So, okay, here's the actual loop. All right, the accountability loop. Initiate the accountability loop with the student during the therapy session. This is where the magic happens. Okay, you're in your group, your therapy group. You're getting ready to send home some homework, and you've got Mary Lou there that needs a little extra support. Say, oh, you know what? You know what would be a really good idea? I'm going to contact your mom. Okay. You go, oh, she gave me her number to text. Okay. Okay. Oh, Susie is here with me and I'm sending home some homework for her. She's doing great. Please ask her about her homework. Please have her do it with you. And by the way, give her a hug for me. Okay. Or leave a message. Okay. The child is sitting there. They know that the parent knows. You've closed that accountability loop. Now, I'm sure that you're thinking, boy, not every parent will do this. And that's true. I'm not going to do it with them. Okay. I'll find some other way to get that kid to practice. Okay. But this accountability loop is for those parents that will participate in this. Do therapy, show them what to do, practice, rehearse at home, have them show you to verify that they know what to do and why. Why are we doing this task? There has to be some relevance there. At that time, contact the student's parent/caregiver, let them know about the homework. You have now initiated the accountability loop. The student knows that their parent knows. Okay? This is pretty powerful. This is not, oh, here's your speech homework, and then it gets lost somewhere. Okay. All right, I think this is our last slide. Here's some accountability loop examples, suggestions of what to say or write. Rita is here with me, and we want to let you know that she's sounding great. She's going to rehearse her R words 5 times tonight. Please listen to her and give her a hug. Sammy is here with me and he's really improving. He's able to do his tongue resting position for at least 2 minutes straight. Woohoo! Be sure to ask him to show you. Jose is here with me. His vocabulary is really coming along. He's learning the meaning of 5 new words today. Ask him to say his new words in sentences for you. Okay. I mean, this small increments. A lot of times people think, ooh, I need to have these huge homework assignments. No, keep it small, keep it manageable, keep it at their capability level. Nothing that they can go wrong with. Okay. Because if they're practicing things wrong, then that's not good in itself. And if the task is too difficult, they won't do it. So I want to set them up for success. Okay. And the accountability loop kind of helps to establish that. And I don't want to say it ensures it every time, but you have a better possibility of them actually complying and doing the homework and therefore improvement. Yeah. Anybody have any questions, comments, contributions, anything? How are we doing, Maddie?
We do have a few questions. So
Okay.
on the topic of the accountability loop, do you have any tips on communicating with parents of bilingual students when you don't speak their language? This person says that they typically try to use emails and Google Translate, but sometimes it's hard to get that across.
Hmm. That's it. I don't know if you can. I really don't. Unless you know, have somebody to translate something in writing ahead of time and then send it home. Um, if you have the student that speaks the language of the parent, I guess that, she could, leave the message on the phone or read it to the parent. But that's all that I can come up with. Yeah, I mean that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a language barrier,
Mm,
truly. So I guess it's finding alternative ways of either the written word or having, if there's an aide in the school that can make the call for you, learn Spanish real fast, or Korean, or Mandarin Chinese, whatever. You know, yeah, that's a conundrum.
yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Um,
Good luck.
let's see. We had another attendee say that in their experience, texting parents who speak other language has been what's most successful in their language and using someone to translate if needed.
Ah,
Um,
good to
so
know. Thank you. Thank you.
we
Teamwork
also
here.
we
Yeah.
also had another question. So a lot of your motivation building strategies regarded around speech sound disorders. Do you have any tips for kind of increasing that like self-awareness and that sort of thing with maybe like high school language students who might say like, I can speak fine, why am I in speech?
Ah, well, yeah. I mean, and you're doing more literacy kinds of things,
Mm,
probably. Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it translates to, vocabulary, to the grammar, to the morphology, to just, expression and,
hmm
all of that. And I guess you just sit down and you say, let's read something. Let's look at, and I remember did work in high school one time, and I came up with that with an issue like, you know, do they know why they're here in this extra class? And I sat down and actually went over some of the test results with the kids. It's just not like looking at the scores and stuff, but the answers that they gave, and
mm,
say, here are the answers that kids your age, a lot of kids your age are giving. And so I'm thinking that maybe that's something that we need to work on. I mean, there needs to be something that, if truly, if it's expression, if they're having difficulty formulating and sequencing their thoughts, maybe you videotape them. What did you do this weekend? That would be an opening. And if they could actually tell you in a cogent way, that would be great. If not, go back, look at the video and say, wow, I'm wondering if maybe I could help you with some of these things. So again, it's self-discovery.
mm. I like that idea of just kind of, always going back to self-discovery and how can we help the child become kind of aware of the areas that we need to work on. Um,
Yeah,
so,
yeah, definitely,
well, Shar,
definitely.
as always, I learned so much from you. I loved your, how you increase your students' self-awareness, the idea of using like encouragement and really instructional feedback. I love that term. So
Good.
thank you for
Me
introducing it
too.
to me tonight.
Good. I'm glad you
Um,
like it.
You had so many thanks, and Claudia said, thank you so much, Shar, for your energy. You're reminding me of why I originally became an SLP. So thank you for
Oh,
the energy
bless
you
you.
bring, the passion you bring to the
Ah,
field, and just continuing to share your knowledge
oh, you're so
with
sweet.
SLPs. We really appreciate you taking the time to be with us this evening.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Go get them. Take care.
As a
Thank you.
reminder, please complete all the sections on the course content page, including the quiz today to earn your live CEUs. If you need I don't think we do a video anymore. But we will see you next time on another speech therapy PD live course. Thanks, guys.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.